At times, the study of historical data will require the use of some unexpected skills. When studying the Baltic Sea, linguistic skills are vitally important.
The most crucial ones to be able to read if one works with the Baltic with the 20th century will definitely be Russian and German. Die Fischindustrie hat ihre Produktion im Jahre 1929 weiter steigern können. Gdansko и в Падане отмечалась высокая температура придонного слоя.
But it does help to know other languages as well.
Verdienaf de samlede fiskeriutbyte for året 1911 merikandadel on võimalik pea kõigil pool ning ei ole kusagil eriti koondunud.
Margaret Arrow has recently completed her PhD about cod in the 20th century at the Technical University of Denmark. These historical studies should help explain the huge peak in the cod stocks during the 1980s.
The main the motivation for this study was to find out which level of this stock is normal in a way. What was the Baltic? Is this huge stock that we observed in the 80s or this low level or something intermediate? What is extraordinary or what is normal for the Baltic?
The Baltic Sea Project is a mosaic of scientists working simultaneously together. Before we learn the surprising answer to the mysterious spike of cod stocks, we should understand the history about the region. The sea is surrounded by 9 countries: Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Germany. Henoivir, the leader of the HMAC Baltic Sea Project, is situated in Estonia.
There are 4 fish species in the Baltic which are assessed and managed internationally. This is herring, sprat, cod, and salmon. The major shift or major development in fisheries took place in 20th century, 1920s, 1930s. Prior to that, fishing intensity was relatively low, and it was mainly confined to the coastal areas, not so much in the open sea.
One of the studies that verify this development is based in St. Petersburg, Russia. Julia Leus has been researching a 50-year-long data series collected by Karl Ernst von Baer in the beginning of the 19th century.
By now it's one of the longest, probably the longest data series for the Baltic Sea in general. And using this data series, Karl Baer proved that it was no overall decline in fisheries in that time, which was his initial hypothesis, but it was the fluctuation of fisheries, which was mostly driven by the weather conditions.
Also here, the scientists faced a struggle with the different languages in the Baltic region.
First of all, it's the German language, and not only the language itself, but the old scribe of language. It is a handwritten material, sometimes very difficult to understand, and there are also a problem with fish names. Very often they used local German names of fish species, and so we need some additional efforts to make a vocabulary of fish species.
The kind of tool you're using has a great influence on the number of fish you can catch.
Basically, in terms of influence of fishing to the stocks, we can seriously start talking from 1930s, 1940s, when with implementation of completely new fishing technology, and this is trawling.
Another great influence on how many fish you can catch is whether you're actually fishing for a particular species. This takes us back to Denmark to hear the conclusion of Margaret Arrow's PhD project. She took a look at the 4 major influences on cod stock: climate, nutrients, seals, and fishing during the period from 1925 up to 1965. And she compared this with data collected between the years 1965 and 2006.
First thing, the earlier perception was about the development of cod in the Baltic over the 20th century was that the stock was very low in the early decades until it started to increase somewhere in the 30s. But when my study has shown that is not the case, that the stock was simply not fished that heavily before the 1950s, and that's the reason why the landings were low.
At the Royal Danish Library, Bo Paulsen and Brian Mackenzie are looking into yet another project in collaboration with Hen Oyavir. Since its onset in 2000, the Baltic Sea Project's wide time frame has established a vast and interactive community of scientists.
This is quite unexceptional to have such a long-term project than for 10 years. It means that you can be more systematic and not just hectic.
Wow, this looks really nice.
I think we have obtained quite a lot of new information from the Baltic without HMAP type project. This, wouldn't have possible at all.
The establishment of cross-research collaboration involving natural and social scientists around the Baltic has created a healthy and promising scientific environment for future projects.
There is a network. There is a fully functioning network currently. People know each other. They know what they know and what they don't know. They know several people we know, quite personally now. So there is a great chance for future to use this network in different ways, in different frameworks.